Stephen Ng is a therapist who counsels sex offenders. 3 of his clients want to tell you about their sex crimes in the hope of not only preventing future victims, but also with the hope of saving you from becoming a registered sex offender.
Tell me about your sex crime.
I was convicted of statutory sexual seduction with a 14-year-old. I was 21 at the time, heavy into drugs and alcohol, wasn't in my right mindset at all. I ended up performing oral sex with him, and his mom had found a text message from me stating that we had had oral sex, had turned me into the police, and the next day I was arrested for it.
When I was 19, I was going to college, and this girl that I knew from high school was also going to the same college. And she came over to my house and was smoking weed with my roommates and I. She ended up smoking too much and passing out. And later that night, I had sex with her twice while she was passed out. The next day, I was arrested for 2 counts of sexual assault.
Well, my crime ended up happening on, it was an average weekend night for me. I was right out of high school, and we'd go out and party and drink. This is what me and my friends would do, and see if we could find some girls to meet and party and drink with us and sleep with them if we could. And so we went and picked up a couple of my friends, and they had some girls with them, and we went and got some beers and drank, and we're partying like we always did. And my friend asked one of the girls if she wanted to have an orgy with me and him, and she said sure. And so we did, and we both slept with her, and I was 18 and she was 13, and so a week later I ended up getting arrested and charged with lewdness with a minor under the age of 14.
So how did this crime and the conviction itself affect your life?
I was in jail for 3 months. I was placed on probation for 3 years. And because of that, I lost my job. I was shunned by my friends. I had to move back in with my parents because of my lack of financial stability. I lost a lot of self-motivation. I lost my self-worth. Didn't think anybody would want to hire me or want to give me the opportunity to be my friend. Being drug tested, having my probation officer show up at my doorstep whenever they want to, whether it be 3 in the morning or 11 o'clock at night. I ended up hurting myself quite a bit because of it.
When I was arrested, I spent 2 weeks in jail. I bailed out. I hired an attorney, which was very expensive. I got a plea bargain, so I pled guilty. Fortunately, I did not have to do any prison time, but I did get sentenced to 5 years of probation with lifetime supervision and also having to register as a sex offender. I have to deal with going to visit my probation officer once a month, and he comes and visits my house whenever he feels like. I have no idea when he's going to show up. When I was first on probation, I had a curfew of 6 o'clock because I could not find a job. And my probation officer at the time told me that my full-time job was to be looking for a job, and also put me on a 6 o'clock curfew. And for the next 2 years, when I had my other probation officer, I was on curfew at 10 o'clock. So my social life was still pretty much non-existent. A lot of people that I knew disowned me. And out of all of the stuff that's happened, the one thing that still really bothers me out of all of it is having to register as a sex offender. Because it's the other things I can deal with, but this one thing, having to go in and saying, hey, this is who I am, it's very demoralizing, and it almost makes me feel less human.
I think it changed the outcome of my whole entire life. I was arrested for lewdness with a minor, and I ended up spending 10 years in prison because of it. From 18 to 28, I was in prison, and so my whole adult life up until then was spent in prison. And that's a hard place to grow up and become an adult in prison. I didn't get to learn any social skills, any relationship skills, and missed out on going to college and just all kinds of things that I had planned and could have experienced. And it's affected me tremendously since I've got out. I'm on life parole and lifetime supervision. I have to, go see a parole officer once a month. They come to my house and check my house and take drug tests, and I have to register as a sex offender. And anytime I go to apply for a job, I have to put it down on a job, and there are numerous jobs that they wanted to give to me, but they couldn't because it comes up on a background check, and so I got denied the job. And it's just affected every single area of my life and changed the whole outcome of my life, that one decision, that one night.
How do you wish you had handled this time in your life? I mean, instead of committing the crime.
I wish I was able to pick better friends outside of drinking, doing drugs. I wish I would have never had started doing drugs or drinking for that matter. I wish I would have talked with a good friend or even someone professional about what I was going through, the pain, loneliness, not feeling accepted by people, and proving that the only way that I could was to do those things. I wish I would have picked better friends, a lot better friends.
Looking back on who I was now, I realized that I was very needy, very lonely, and very socially awkward around women, and I didn't even realize it at that time. My roommates were getting laid a bunch, and I wasn't, and they would give me a hard time about it, but I really took it to heart and internalized it. And if I could go back and tell myself something, I honestly have no idea what I would say to myself that I would listen to. But for the sake of telling myself something, I would tell myself not to take things so seriously and not worry about what other people are doing. Just worry about what I'm doing and focus on myself.
I think I would have handled everything differently. I mean, looking back now, I wish I could have went back and just told myself that that's not the way life is to be lived. I look back now and I don't like the person that I was and how I lived life. And I grew up in a home where my mom sold drugs and did drugs and drank and slept with all kinds of random guys, and that was made okay to me. That was what I thought life was about and what I thought life, how it was to be lived. And looking back now, I see that that's not what life's about. There's so many wonderful, great, joyous things in life that don't revolve around those things. And I wish I could just tell myself that what can actually happen for doing that. I was just out doing something that I thought was normal, what we do every weekend, going out and drinking and partying, and because of that, my whole life was changed. I spent 10 years in prison doing something that I thought was normal, and I wish I could tell myself that and the consequences that can actually happen from doing something that I thought, was normal, that every kid I knew in high school was doing. Just going out and partying and drinking and sleeping with girls you meet can change the whole rest of your life.
These 3 people told their stories because they know their crimes were preventable. They don't want us to make the same mistakes in our lives and our relationships.